So here we are, first examples of conversions in chapter 1. So converting between units. Here's our example. Convert 5 yards to feet. Now you could very simply probably think to yourself, well, if there's in 1 yard, if there's 3 feet, then I could say in 5 yards that there would be, well, 15 feet, which is great, except a lot of the times these conversions won't be that simple. So I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to calculate how to find those, knowing what we know, or knowing our answer. So we start with simple examples so that you can see the process of doing it and then lead you to more complex examples. So if we want to convert 5 yards to feet, there's 2 ways we can think about it. One of which, if we think about it using conversion factors, then we follow this process. We take our 15 feet. No, sorry, I started with the answer. We take our 5 yards, and we want to multiply that 5 yards by the conversion factor that relates yards and feet. And if you look at your table, you'll know, or if you know in your head, I know that 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. Okay, so I multiply this value of 5 yards by the conversion factor that relates yards and feet so that the units that I'm left with cancel out. So I multiply by 3 feet over 1 yard. Because what happens is if I have yards times feet, if I have yards times feet divided by yards, these yards will cancel out and I'm just left with feet, which is exactly what I want to happen. So that's how you set up a conversion factor multiplication. Okay. So then, because I'm multiplying fractions over 1, I multiply straight across the top, which gives me 15. And if I wanted to, I could put my units here. 15 yards times feet divided by, well, 1 times 1 yard is 1 yard. And I can see that yards over yards, well, those are going to cancel out, just like fractions. And I'm just left with, purple, I'm just left with 15 feet. Converted. Now, another way to use these conversions is to create what we call equal proportions. So this is using conversion factors, and I'm going to do a red one down here using proportions. Now, proportions, although a little bit simpler, don't necessarily fit the best needs because there are sometimes multiple step questions. And using a proportion type calculation will only allow you to do 1 step at a time. So what I do is I take my 5 yards, just like I did before, take my 5 yards, make that into a fraction over X number of feet, because that's what I'm trying to figure out. Well, how many feet are in 5 yards? And I make that equal to whatever my conversion factor between yards and feet would be, making sure that I keep the yards and the feet units in the same position of the fraction. Sorry, excuse me. So because yards on my left-hand side is on the top, I'm going to put 1 yard on the top on the other side with 3 feet on the top on the bottom. And then I do a simple cross multiply divide calculation. I crisscross multiply whatever I know, well, I know these two, and I divide with what I'm left. So this is going to lead me to 5 yards times 3 feet divided by 1 yard. And we can see again that the yards over yards will cancel. I'm left with 5 times 3 divided by 1, which is just 15, and my feet. And I would be done. Okay. I'm going to leave this here as it stands right now, and I'm going to ask you to look at B and do the same or a similar calculation to calculate how many inches in 5 yards.